Huawei's been in the news a lot this year, sometimes for the good, sometimes for the bad. Today we're going to talk about the good, specifically the new MateBook 14. While it's a really nice laptop, it's also a little bit strange. Today I'll tell you why. Stay tuned. All right, before we get started, let's recap the current situation with Huawei's laptop. So they recently announced the Huawei MateBook 13. We actually did a full review of that, so go check that out if you're interested in 13-inch laptops. There's also the Huawei MateBook X Pro, which then got revised for 2019. We also just reviewed that. It's a really excellent device. And now we have the MateBook 14, which kind of falls right in between of those. And while it's a really nice laptop, it doesn't quite distinguish itself from those other two enough, but it's still a very good laptop on its own. I should also mention there is still the MateBook X, which is their really old laptop, which hasn't been refreshed yet. That's a fanless system. Hopefully we'll see a refresh for that later this year. All right, starting with the outside here, we have Mystic Silver for the color. That's versus Space Gray, which you can get in Space Gray as well. So if you want a darker hue, you can do that. We do have the new Huawei logo here, so no more lotus flower. It's straight up most boring font in the world. I mean, this is okay. It's fine. It's not distracting, but I think this would have looked better if they had a better font, or I don't know, put it in a corner. I don't know. Whatever, it works. It's a very clean, plain design. Switching to the bottom here, you do get the vent system here on the bottom, dual fans. Same new fan system, SharkFin 2.0 as the new MateBook X Pro. So the fans on this are pretty good. They're pretty quiet. They still can ramp up. If you plug this in and ramp it up on high performance mode, you will hear those fans. If you're using it normally, well, it's not so bad. Looking at the bottom front, you can see these 4 holes here. These are microphones for Cortana or whatever you want to use them for. So far field microphone array, kind of nice. We also have the speakers. So we get 2 speakers on the bottom. Not my favorite design. Very good speakers, very good audio as we expect from Huawei. You do get Dolby Atmos. However, these are the only 2 speakers on this device versus having 2 more on the top deck, which is what the MateBook X Pro has. So that's going to be one of the compromises here. Let's get to I/O. So on the left-hand side here, this is where things are going to get changed up. You do have a USB Type-C 3.1. However, that is not Thunderbolt 3, so that is another compromise there. It can do data, it can do power, just not Thunderbolt 3. You also have a headphone jack, and instead of doing the full Thunderbolt 3, they give you an HDMI port, which is actually kind of nice. Again, this is more geared towards the professional, the business person, and for a lot of people who use HDMI, and I'm actually one of those, I actually do appreciate having that. You do get a small LED as well to let you know it's charging. And on the right-hand side, not a whole lot going on. 2 USB Type-A. One of those is going to be the full super speed port, so you're going to use that probably for data as well as for fast transfers, and then you have a normal USB Gen 1 port as well. All right, looking at the display here, we do get very thin bezels. In fact, this is very much like the MateBook X Pro, where you're not going to have a webcam on top. Instead, it pops up from the deck. So some people are fans of that. Some people aren't. If you use webcam a lot, probably not a great choice. I don't mind this, actually. I think it's a really nice, elegant design, but you know, it is what it is. For the screen itself, it's going to be a 2K screen. So that's a drop from the 3K, the MateBook X Pro. So again, slightly lower resolution. Does that matter at 14 inches when you have a 3:2 resolution? I personally don't think so. Some of you might appreciate the higher res, but it's not that big of a deal. Now, the contrast is around 1000 to 1. It's pretty good, but the MateBook X Pro does have a better display overall. Brightness is going to be around 300 nits, so it's bright enough. Not the most brightest display on the market, but it's good enough for most people. No auto dimming, which is actually kind of a good thing. The MateBook X Pro is too aggressive on auto dimming, in my opinion, but you don't even have the option here, so that's one area where they cut back. It is a full touchscreen as well, so you can use touch on it, not a problem. Does not support pen though, as expected. Looking at the power button here, that does have an integrated fingerprint reader, so no facial recognition for Windows Hello. You use that, and this is the new Huawei system where it can basically log you in when the Huawei logo pops up when it's booting up for the first time or coming out of a deep sleep. So you don't need to press it again to log into Windows. Kind of a clever design, but that's the same thing we've seen on other Huawei devices as well. Nothing new on the keyboard outside of the fact that this is a British keyboard. So if you're wondering why this looks like that and some of the symbols are a little bit different, that's because it's a UK version. There will be a US version as well. Other than that, though, this is a standard chiclet style that Huawei's been using for a while now. Very good travel on it. Just a really nice keyboard. Very nice backlit system with those black keys. It really shines through. No complaints about this keyboard at all. Looking at the trackpad, again, very similar to what Huawei's been using. Large design, very smooth, precision drivers, just a very good trackpad. But they still also have that little issue where there's just a little bit more of a rattle and play on this trackpad that I would prefer. I'd still like to see them use a better design here. It's not a bad trackpad at all. In fact, it's probably one of the best on the market, but I feel like they could still improve it by fixing that little bit of a rattle. And if you're curious about this giant sticker here, that is Huawei Share. So that's an NFC sticker. It's actually on top of the deck because this is a metal device. So if you remove that, it won't work. Huawei Share works with Huawei phones. So if you happen to have one of those, you can transfer photos and images back and forth from the laptop to the phone and from the phone to the laptop by simply tapping that. It's a really nice design, actually. I would say it's almost Apple-esque. It works so well, and just the design and animation is great, but it does require you have a Huawei phone. If you're in the United States, you have to buy one of those phones off Amazon through third parties, which is how I got mine. And unfortunately, they don't sell them through carriers. But if you are comfortable with having an all Huawei system, well, it actually works very well. All right, let's talk about power, performance, and all that other good stuff. So first of all, this is running a Core i7-8565U, which by now should sound kind of boring. Almost every laptop has that chip. It's a really good processor. And in fact, Huawei does very good thermals and ramping up of this chip. In fact, it gets some of the best benchmarks we've seen, and it matches the MateBook X Pro for performance as well. So you're getting the exact same sort of laptop in that regard. I should also mention, you'd expect the MateBook X Pro, which has an MX250 for graphics, maybe that's where they would differentiate it from this. Nope, this too also has an MX250 from NVIDIA. That's an okay GPU. It's good enough for some light gaming, but it's not going to do a lot. But it's better to have than not say anything. And it's a little bit faster than the MX150 from last year, but it's pretty much negligible. But still, it's nice to have here. If you want to save some money as well, there's going to be a Core i5 version. That's an 8265U as well. So we haven't tested that one, but that should be a good performer, I think, for most people. Now, when it comes to the SSD, you get 256 or 512 gigs of storage, and it's a very good performer. You're talking over 3,000 megabytes per second for read on sequential and around 1,800 for write. So that's right up there with some of the best SSDs on the market. So overall, as a performance package, this is one of the best Ultrabooks you can get. And that's actually really interesting when you compare it to the MateBook X Pro, which you think would be much better. In fact, it's exactly the same. So overall, Huawei did a very good design here. When it comes to battery life, you're talking a 57 watt-hour battery. That's the same battery as MateBook X Pro. Again, you should be getting a theme here, which is these are very similar laptops, and they recycled a lot of the same parts. And that's a good thing here because the battery life on this is going to be excellent. It's going to push around 10 hours easily. In fact, battery life on the MateBook 14 should be slightly better. You have a lower resolution display compared to the MateBook X Pro. It's also not as bright. So all those factors will probably give you an extra half hour or an hour. Not a huge difference, but still nice to have. Now, there are a few other physical differences as well. For instance, this is slightly heavier. It's about 160 grams heavier than the MateBook X Pro, which is not a lot, but you know, it's enough. It drives up to weight over 3 pounds, so it's gonna be a little bit heavier. It's also a little bit thicker, partly because of that HDMI plug. But again, if you're using it just by itself, it feels like a very thin and light Ultrabook. It's a really good design, considering it's all metal as well. On its own, if I never reviewed any other Huawei laptop, well, this is actually one of the best out there. Performance is outstanding. I think the value is actually pretty good. The build quality is really nice. You get that 3:2 aspect ratio. It's touchscreen. Everything about it is actually really solid. The thing that makes it strange is the fact that the MateBook X Pro exists. Now, I should point out for value here, this is supposed to be about $200 cheaper than the MateBook X Pro. And I say it should be because we don't have final pricing on this device yet. That was just what Huawei advised us on. But that's how you should think about this. It's $200 less than the MateBook X Pro, but it's going to be about $200 more than the MateBook 13. Does $200 matter for Thunderbolt 3, a higher resolution display, slightly thinner and lighter laptop? Yeah, probably. That actually probably makes a lot of sense. Whether or not that drives you to choose this over another laptop, I'm not really sure. It's a strange laptop, but on its own, I think Huawei did a very good job here. And again, they keep batting it out of the park here for laptops. Now, the Huawei name is a bit controversial, so I know a lot of you are going to bring that up in comments, and that's up to you to decide. I actually use Huawei products, and I have no problems with them. None of their laptops or phones have ever been shown to be doing anything nefarious, and I think that's really important. You can quickly test this by connecting it up to a Wi-Fi network and using a packet analyzer, and it's fine. So I'll leave that decision to you, but overall, if you're looking for a nice 14-inch laptop, I think this is one of the best on the market. It is a little bit cheaper than MateBook X Pro. I don't think those differences matter for most people, but at least it's slightly cheaper and you get more options. That's always a good thing. All right, so there's a quick review of the Huawei MateBook 14. Now, if you want more information about this device, make sure you go to the description. We'll try to have the links there for you. It should be hitting global markets sometime in May. We'll have more information about that on Windows Central. Otherwise, leave me a comment or questions below, and I'll try to answer those. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Take care, everyone.